Okay, so I want to welcome you guys to this special live edition of Design Time at OLC. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Cetis Design's top 5 rules for online lectures. Now, recorded lectures, narrated PowerPoints, online lectures can be a very effective way to present online course content. And that really provides you, as the faculty or staff member, a means to elaborate on assigned readings, draw attention to key ideas and complex concepts. But it also gives you a sense of presence with your online students by enabling you to speak with them directly and draw points on the key elements of your presentation. So with that importance in mind, we wanted to talk about some simple rules to kind of follow along with that are going to help you to not only improve your lectures, but make them more appealing and engaging for your online students. So let's start with rule number 1. And rule 1 is pretty simply write a script before you record your lecture. Even if you don't follow your script word for word, it's going to help you to not only organize your thoughts and ideas, but it's going to give you a transcript that you can then hand out to your learners who may learn best by reading or for those who may be hearing impaired. Okay, so we're going to now talk about rule number 2. Rule 2 is keep your online lectures short. Now, we have learned that, as Don said earlier, the 15 minutes that we were originally recording our Design Time episodes are too long. So we're going to try and scale that back, and I'm sure that Carolyn and Dawn, the other Dawn, the girl Dawn, are going to be talking about that a little bit more in depth later. But the idea here is to keep your lectures less than 6 minutes, and that's kind of ideal because that not only helps students to stay focused, but we found that longer lectures can make it very difficult to hold attention, and students oftentimes will scrub through that type of longer presentation to find areas that they want to listen to but miss key points as a side effect of scrubbing through. And then we always want to remember that watching or listening to a lecture is a form of passive learning, so we want to keep it short so we can focus more on the active learning elements within the course. Okay, so we're going to move on to rule number 3, and that is be professional and personable. And sometimes that's harder than it sounds. You get in front of a microphone, you get in front of a webcam, and you kind of freeze up sometimes. But the easiest way to remain personal with your students is to act like you're actively talking to just one student rather than a whole group. This one-on-one approach has really been proven to kind of increase student engagement, and it can also lead to increased retention of most of the material that's learned in the course. And then as far as being professional, just make sure you're recording in a quiet environment with a good microphone. One of the top problems with online lectures is I can't hear you. So if you're using a good microphone and you're in a quiet environment, that kind of eliminates that problem. If you're using webcam, make sure you're centered in the frame. I know Dawn deals with this a lot. She's always looking at ceilings and belts, and when you're recording yourself, make sure that you're in the center of the frame. We don't want to look at your forehead the whole lecture. And then, like I said earlier, use conversational language, be personal, use some frequent examples, and maintain those elements of your unique personality, because that's really what's going to make it feel more connected for your students. Okay, rule number 4, keep your PowerPoints and visual aids simple. And this is kind of interesting, and it's a lot harder than we thought. But visual aids, PowerPoints, they're designed to complement your spoken word rather than being a transcript. So by using visual aids like text, replacing text with images, it helps to kind of create interest and gives framework to your concepts. And we also recommend that if you're using graphics, illustrations, and charts, use them when appropriate, and like we said earlier, avoid bulky lines of text. And when you're using graphics and images, it really kind of helps to create a visual picture for the learners that when they're recalling the information, they can kind of assimilate that with the visual image that they're remembering. And then finally, rule number 5 is keep disabilities in mind. When you have a presentation, make sure it's clearly viewable, and consider giving a hard copy of the presentation slides to your students so they can kind of follow along with you. And if you're doing a screencast, we recommend that you avoid scrolling or using jumpy animations because, folks with visual problems, that might cause a problem for them to see or follow along with. And in that same vein, you know, using colors as emphasis is kind of a big no-no. You know, red-green color blindness is a big deal right now. We want to make sure that, you know, if you're calling out special things or you're trying to give emphasis or meaning by using colored text, it may not be as impactful as you're thinking it is. And then, of course, you know, we always recommend that you send out a text transcript that can be derived from the script that you wrote earlier. That way, you know, folks who have a hearing impairment are able to follow along with your online lecture. So I want to thank you guys for joining us today at OLC, and I want to remind everybody that the next design time is going to be on December 7th, and that's going to be WebEx for online lectures. And we'll see you in the next video.